Well, and then continue on to the next piece, the operational approach. And this is the final piece of the formula. And in this piece, what you want to make sure that you're focusing in on are the practical aspects of the evaluation. How the evaluation is going to actually be operated, and how it's actually going to be implemented from a practical standpoint. Okay. And so for step 6, when you want to make sure you describe who will be involved in the evaluation and also the timing of those evaluation activities. So who are some of the individuals that are usually involved in the evaluation? Well, of course, you have the principal investigator who would be involved. But another person that you want to engage with is the institutional researcher. And it's also really important that you engage with the institutional researcher during the proposal phase. One, they may have real insight in terms of what will impact on the data gathering process. And so you want to make sure that that is reflected within the narrative. But also, they may also have a need for additional resources to be able to gather the needed data. And so you want to make sure that that is captured so it's reflected in the budget during the proposal phase as well. You also just may have some other stakeholders who are involved within the process too. Some of these other stakeholders could be a co-PI, another project team member, or somebody else within the institution, or maybe another partner. And so those are some other individuals that you want to make sure to involve within the evaluation. And then of course, there's also the external evaluator. And at its best, what you want to do is be able to work in a collaborative standpoint with these individuals, and that you're collaboratively thinking about and implementing the evaluation, particularly again with that lens towards continuous improvement. And sometimes what you'll see as a term to relate to this, to refer to this group of individuals, is an evaluation team. And let me take a moment here just to talk a little bit about the role of the external evaluator. Now, an external evaluator should be providing guidance in the development of the evaluation. And of course, they also should be leading the implementation of the evaluation. But again, as I've said, that the implementation should really ideally occur within this collaborative standpoint. But I also think that the evaluator, the external evaluator, should be the champion for the evaluation. And I put champion in quotation marks because it's a champion for the evaluation, not the project per se. So what do I mean by championing the evaluation? Well, you want someone who is really looking for ways to learn through the continuous improvement process. You also want someone who's really staying what I call close on the project to be able to identify emergent data gathering processes that may not have been clear before the project was actually being implemented. And then you also want to make sure that there's someone who's helping to catalyze the process for using the data to inform the decision-making process. And again, basically what they're doing is really helping to use the evaluation for this continuous improvement and not just for the proving piece. And I think in that way, there's a lot of value that an external evaluator can give to a project beyond just being able to check a box to say that there's an external evaluator who's serving on the project. So in regards to talking about the team, what does this look like? Again, very simple statements that can be included within the narrative. So in this case, we just give a description of our firm, who's leading the evaluation, and then who's going to be involved. So here it was the project director and the institutional researcher. And again, similarly, in another example, we talked about the PI, the co-PIs who would be involved, giving information about myself and the firm. And again, depending on the space, you can provide more detail or less detail around these elements. Another piece that you could consider to add into the evaluation plan would be a reference to the cycle of evaluation activities. And what you want to be able to do is convey that the evaluation is not something separate, but it's integral to the project. And so on this type of example, we're highlighting out when the evaluation design is going to be articulated, what the data gathering, as well as when reporting is going to occur. And then also this image also is conveying that we're meeting frequently. Most of the time in working with our clients, we minimally are trying to meet with clients once a month because we do deal with these innovative new projects. And there are a lot of emergent issues that we want to make sure that we're capturing information so that we know that that's occurring. And also if we can identify ways to capture additional data. So the take-home lesson here is really describe who will be involved in the evaluation and when the evaluation activities will occur. So let me pause there and see if there are any questions.
Yes, we do have a few questions. The first one is, what if you can't hire an evaluator during the proposal phase?
Yes, that's actually, that's not an uncommon challenge. I know that some institutions, what they will do is they will actually create a pool of an evaluators that are pre-qualified, that they are able to reach out to when a grant opportunity emerges. If that's not feasible, then you can just include within the evaluation plan what your procurement process will be to secure an evaluator. If you have to do that latter approach, what I would encourage you to do is just to make sure that as soon as you are getting started on that process, that you're actually securing an evaluator. Again, I really believe that the value that an evaluator can bring is through the continuous improvement process. And if you wait too long to be able to engage with an evaluator, then that benefit gets weakened. So make sure that you're able to secure that person early within the process.
Thanks, Lana. We have another participant who asked, do you have any tips for working with institutional researchers who are unresponsive?
It depends on how and when they're unresponsive. So unresponsive can occur in different ways. So one of the reasons why I encourage individuals to reach out really early within the process is so that the project is on their radar. So are they unresponsive because the project's not on their radar, you haven't been able to reach out to them, and you're needing something turned around very quickly? I think that's one type of situation. But at the heart, I think, of the solution is really building a relationship with the individual, making sure that you are reaching out to that person, finding time to meet with that person before you really need them to provide you with data. The earlier you can do that, and then to find out what would make that person's job easier. What would they need so that it would be easier for them to give you the data that you needed. In many institutions, they are one person that's being asked to do a lot in really quick turnaround times. So the more that you kind of are reaching out to them before you need something from them, the more that you have a relationship and the more that you know that you're giving them something that you'll be able, that your reach out is in a frame or in a way that they will be able to more quickly respond to. So hopefully that helps as a quick tip. And then the bottom line is just persistence. Sometimes you just have to be really persistent. So.
Thank you, Lana. We do just have a couple of more questions.
Okay. Would I be able to pause for a quick moment so I can finish just to make sure that we are able to get everything in?
Sure.
Okay, so I will go through this next portion quickly and we'll try to make sure that we have that time at the end. So quickly, just in terms of putting everything together, we started off by the foundations and we talked about the theory of change. And with the theory of change, we said to be able to summarize that in a sentence and to be able to include a logic model at the proposal stage for moderate and large scale initiatives. Then we also talked about that every proposal should have evaluation questions and that what really is going to vary is not the presence or absence, but the number of those questions. Then we talked about choosing evaluation design, and then what you need to consider in terms of the data gathering and analysis and describing that. And the final two in regards to the use of the findings and the operational approach. And so when you put all those together, what you'll get is an evaluation plan. And so we started this journey together talking about the evaluation word salad. And we talked about all these different words that may not be necessarily clear or understanding. And hopefully after this time together, there's a little more clarity on where these terms actually land and where they actually live. So hopefully that aims and the objectives that we had have been met. And so just real quickly, I did talk about the next webinar, which is focused on developmental evaluation. That's going to occur on September 10th. So let me stop there and return back to the questions that have been posed.
Thanks, Lana. One participant's question is, what would you say the key thing is that we need to be aware of to create the logic model effectively?
I think there needs to be an understanding of what the underlying theory is. And theory is not theory in regards to, you know, a grand scientific theory, but every project, there's an underlying hypothesis that you are operating from. And a lot of times that underlying theory is not necessarily been articulated. The more that you articulate that piece and really going back to that if then and really understanding what your theory is around recruiting, around retaining individuals, be it underrepresented minorities or women, the more you have an understanding of that theory, then I think that then the logic model becomes much clearer about what activities do you need to do to make that theory really come alive, and then what outcomes you will see by actually implementing that theory. So hopefully that kind of makes sense in terms of really focusing on the theory piece.
Thank you. And then just one more to wrap up. Will it be better to involve an external evaluator for a larger grant like $1 million versus 100,000?
It depends. I don't know if I would say better. You know, it's definitely usually involving an external evaluator. It's usually just as you technically are not doing a percentage of the grant, but sometimes you use it as a guide. So relatively speaking, it's going to be a percentage of the grant, although that's not technically how you would determine what the costs are. There really could be some capacity building, and that what you want to do in terms of engaging with an evaluator with a $100,000 grant is to really help to play a consultant role, that you may have some people internally who may be able to do some of the data gathering processes to just try to make that engagement more cost effective. But it may really be useful to be able to engage with someone to help in terms of capacity building, evaluation capacity building, and grant capacity building to be able to get to a larger grant. So I don't think that I would completely shy away from talking to an external evaluator, even if it was a small grant. you may just scale down what their involvement is, and they may just play a stronger consultative role than actually doing all the data gathering components. So I believe that we are at time. Thank you all so much for joining in. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We have the webinars that are posted on our YouTube page, and you will receive an email tomorrow with the link to the recording as well as a survey. So if you can complete that survey and let us know what your experience is so that we can keep getting better, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.